Hi friends, I'm hoping this is working. Let's see, I'm gonna check this out. Hang on just a second, I'm just gonna make sure that I am live. I think I might be. Yay, it's working. Okay, good. So I'm like 2 minutes early, but I've been having so many issues getting set up that I just thought I would start a little early. Okay, so welcome. So I'm going to be just sharing a little bit about the art and the neuroscience of meditation. For those who are new to the space or don't know me, my name is Sarah Slater Snyder. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I'm a therapist in private practice and a registered yoga teacher. I got my yoga teacher certification back in 2012 and was teaching for a long time, yoga both in schools and in a studio, and you know, I wanted to share so a little bit more about me. So therapist, a yoga teacher, and I also am you know, a mental health educator, and really love sharing about the work that I do. And I decided to create, you know, this space, this women's wellness circle, honestly, because I really saw this need for, oops, hang on. Honestly, because I really saw this need. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to figure out how to silence this video so I can still see comments. There we go. I got it. Okay. Where was I? Let me start over. Hi, it's 1 o'clock. Great. So welcome, you guys. So I was just sharing a little bit about me and who I am. So as I was saying, I'm a licensed therapist, LCSW, a registered yoga teacher, a mental health educator, and an intuitive wellness mentor. And, you know, I created the Women's Wellness Circle because I was seeing a need in my private practice as a therapist. I talk to a lot of women. I specialize with teenage girls mostly and young adult women. And to be honest, I see over and over again girls and women who have forgotten who they are or who don't know yet who they are, and are on this journey to sort of discover that. And I know for me, meditation has been the most transformational practice. I did my yoga teacher training back in 2012 here in Hawaii, and I started, you know, practicing yoga every day after that, and I started meditating every day for at least a year, if not longer. And that experience alone of just like daily meditation, daily yoga, got me so reconnected back to myself, right? So I think I've shared this and I've talked about this before, but yoga itself really is a practice of uniting body, mind, and spirit through the breath. And I have found myself that, you know, the more that I am in the process of just really like establishing a meditation practice, I find that I am just so much more self-aware. I am so much more responsive rather than reactive. I find that, you know, I just have found this practice of meditation to really like bring me back home to who I am. And I want to be able to share some of that with you. So my hope today is that I'm going to spend about 10 minutes or so just sharing a little bit about, you know, my own experience, but also sort of the neuroscience behind meditation and why it's so beneficial. And a little bit of sort of, you know, the art or some suggestions in creating, you know, your own home practice. I would love to answer your questions. So if you are able to catch this live, please comment. Know that those of you who can comment on this, I'm going to enter you into a little giveaway to, and I will share, I'll send you a copy of my affirmation cards, my Radical Self-Love affirmation card deck. So if you're able to comment, I would love to hear your questions. Or your own experiences, to be honest, with meditation. I really welcome, I think everyone's experience is different, right? So I've been doing a 30-day meditation challenge for myself. And I know that, like, you know, I've been posting my daily meditations, and It's kind of counterintuitive, to be honest, because the practice of meditation is so internal, right? So it's like, even my husband was like, why are you posting these? But I wanted to post the meditations and my experience of 30 days of meditating because I wanted to normalize it. Like I wanted to, what I hear time and time again from women is, I don't know where to start, or I do it wrong. There's really it's not that there's a wrong way to meditate necessarily, right? There's really no wrong way to go within yourself. We all do it a little bit differently. And so I think meditation itself is really the art of non-judgmental and one-pointed awareness. And it could be awareness of the breath. It could be awareness of a mantra. It could be awareness of a body part, a sensation, an image, a visualization. You could use mala beads, right? And like take a breath with each bead that you're bringing awareness to. But the idea is that meditation is really the art of non-judgmental awareness, and one-pointed awareness. And it ultimately, it is inducing the body's relaxation response, right? So I've talked about this before, that essentially we tend to, as human beings, especially in the sort of chaos of our daily world right now, I think that we are walking around in our body's stress response system, right? Like we are in our sympathetic nervous system, and we sometimes don't even realize it. Like we are, feeling anxious, we're feeling stressed, we're feeling overwhelmed, right? And we are spending all this time in our drive system or our threat system, which is a tool that I shared, I think in one of my previous videos, just about Paul Gilbert's 3 systems of emotional regulation. And, the 3 systems are the drive system, the threat system, and the soothing system. The drive system is that go, go, go part of ourselves. The threat system is the survival part of ourselves, that fight or flight response to keep us safe. And I think most of us operate our lives from those 2 places, and we don't really make time to be in our soothing system. So meditation engages the rest and digest response, the parasympathetic nervous system. And it does that really through activating sort of going internally, right? And when we come into our breath, we are activating the vagus nerve, which is a nerve that runs from the tailbone all the way up through the brain, and it sort of spreads out all throughout the body. It's called the wandering nerve. And the vagus nerve is responsible for basically sending that message to the brain that we can slow down the stress response cycle, and we can start to get into that rest and digest relaxation response. And so meditation, there are so many benefits, right? And anyone can meditate, really. Regardless of your age and your size and your gender and your race, like anyone can meditate. So I want to just share a few benefits. So kind of the in terms of the neuroscience, some benefits of meditation, right? And we are going to do a meditation shortly. So meditation itself is honestly, like I prescribe this as almost a natural antidepressant. So many of my clients who, have clinical depression or anxiety, what we find is that meditating, and there have been so many studies that have backed this up, meditating actually increases our serotonin and our dopamine levels, right? Which are 2 neurotransmitters that are responsible for our mood. So when we meditate, we are literally elevating our happiness and our positivity. And let me see if anyone's commenting. Hang on. Okay, there we go. So not only is it elevating our mood, but actually when we meditate, it's improving our cognitive function. It's improving our brain's ability to, sustain focus and attention, and to be mindful, to be aware, right? And the way that it does that is basically when we meditate. So there have been all these studies that have looked at meditation as a tool to actually reduce the amount of gray area, or the gray matter, I should say, in certain areas of the brain. So actually it's interesting because it increases gray matter in certain parts like the hippocampus, which is responsible for memory. So meditation actually boosts our memory, right? And increases our blood flow in the brain. It increases the oxygen that's happening and moving through the brain. It reduces the gray matter in the amygdala, which is responsible for fear and aggression. So when you think about being in your body's stress response, typically the survival response, fight or flight, is coming from the amygdala, from the limbic system, which again is sort of like our primal part of ourselves. So when we meditate, we're reducing the activity that's in that amygdala, and we're instead bringing more like neural firing basically to the frontal lobe. So there have been all these studies that have looked at basically the increase in frontal lobe activity through meditation. And so not only are we and I should say the frontal lobe, really like our prefrontal cortex that sits behind the forehead, is responsible for judgment, planning, decision making, long-term planning, our ability to sustain, tasks, to be organized, to delay gratification, to practice impulse control, right? So all of those things are actually happening when we meditate, especially if we practice meditation on a regular basis. Also, as a benefit, there's a neurotransmitter called GABA, which is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. Basically, it's kind of applies the brakes. It slows things down, the sort of neural firing. And GABA is responsible for, it's a calming neurotransmitter. Basically, it calms the brain. It slows down some of the processes. So rather than being all like amped up, right, when we're in that stress response cycle, GABA allows us to slow things down, decreasing our heart rate, decreasing our breathing, right? So whereas some of those like stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, those speed it up. Those get us into that fight or flight response. So meditation literally decreases the body's stress and anxiety by activating that relaxation response, that parasympathetic nervous system. And that reduces the cortisol, that reduces the adrenaline, that gets us more into our rest and digest response, right? A few other things I just want to mention though, which I find fascinating, that meditation also increases the like cortical folds of the brain. It's called gyrification. Basically, this allows the brain to process information faster. So it's like sending messages in a more efficient way. It also, meditation increases our brain's functioning, whole brain functioning. So it sort of synchronizes the two hemispheres of the brain. And we've seen in a lot of studies that when research participants are meditating regularly, that we can see an increase in the like wave height, the amplitude of their brain waves. So when we meditate, we shift into alpha, theta, and beta waves. Alpha, theta, and delta waves, right? Which when we're alert and sort of awake right now, we're in more like beta wave. But when we start to, meditate and start to slow things down, which I've talked about actually when I think I was sharing about Yoga Nidra, because Yoga Nidra does this too. It's a form of meditation where it essentially allows our brain to shift into sort of the brain waves that are responsible for like being awake and relaxed, right? And then moving into that theta wave and eventually delta wave, which is much more responsible for like non-REM 1, like the first few stages of sleep, basically. So we're changing our brain waves literally when we meditate. And, we're also, I think I mentioned this, but we're strengthening sort of the communication between different parts of the brain, the prefrontal cortex and other parts of the brain. So also studies, last thing, have shown that meditation reduces our sensitivity to pain, even more so than morphine. Side note, when I had my son, I used what's called Hypnobabies, which was this really incredible program that used hypnosis for pain management. But it honestly felt like I was meditating, to be honest. That to me, so I had a completely natural childbirth with no pain meds. And I'm not going to say that the whole experience was pain-free. It wasn't, but it drastically reduced my pain. I really felt like because of my meditation practice, I was able to go inward and to be in my own breath and to be in my own sort of experience, and not to be in the stress response cycle. So although my body, like when I was giving birth, was certainly having that response of like I was shaky and I was like, very much in some ways amped up because of my meditation practice and my use of this Hypnobabies program, it allowed me to really reduce anxiety and to be able to actually like be in my own breath, not experience as much pain, like just to sort of be in a much calmer state while giving birth, which was pretty remarkable. So, in terms of, so that's sort of the why, like, why should I meditate, right? Those are all the benefits. I think a lot of times the questions I get are, well, when should I meditate? Where should I meditate? How do I meditate, right? And I think like my advice in terms of starting a home practice for yourself is just start small, like be realistic, like I think even just a few minutes a day can make a big difference. And, maybe you just meditate for 1 minute every morning before you get out of bed, or for 2 minutes, right? And every day you increase the amount of time if it's going well. I think you want to pick a time that you can be consistent with. So ideally, I would love to meditate every morning, but that's just not realistic for me because my 3-year-old wakes me up most mornings. So, for me, either if I have like a free time during my day, I will use that. Otherwise, it's before bed, and that's my consistent time. I also, really advise if you can to just move your body a little bit before meditating. So sometimes just like a simple yoga pose or even a restorative yoga pose, or some stretching, cat-cow or downward dog, or, whatever feels good in your body, I think can be really, really helpful. And I also, in terms of starting a home practice, I think you want to set the tone, set the mood, like turn off the phone, make sure it's on silent, close your door, set a timer if you need to. That can be really helpful, is like if you're only meditating for a few minutes to start, set a timer so that when that time is up, you don't even have to think about it, right? I always love, and I haven't been able to do as much of this, but I always love like light a candle, burn some incense, play music, right? Create some like ambiance around you. Because of my toddler, I don't really do candles as much these days, but I love to when I can. But the goal is really like create a safe, comfortable space. That's what we want. And my advice is to try different approaches to meditation. I think for me, when I first got started, I used a lot of guided meditations. So you can download Insight Timer or Headspace or the Calm app. There's a lot of free apps out there. For Yoga Nidra, I really like the Sanctuary app by Rod Stryker. But listen to some guided meditations. You can even YouTube it and find some meditations that you might like. And I also know that for me, I had to try some different teachers out before I found the teachers who I sort of resonated most with in terms of my yoga and my meditation practice. And if you don't really love listening to the sound of someone else's voice, then just sit in silence, right? Like, to me, that's actually what most of my meditations are. I don't really do guided meditations as often unless I'm really just, exhausted. But I think just allowing yourself to be in silence and maybe to be sort of focusing on the breath or focusing on a mantra. Lately, the thing that I love more than anything is being outside. Meditating in my yard has been my new favorite thing, just because like the sensory awareness during that is really wonderful. I think in terms of, what are the components really of a meditation practice, really there's 2 parts. So and I mentioned this in the beginning, there's the one-pointed focus of your attention. And this is the most important part that I think a lot of people miss, the second part is the non-judgment, right? Acceptance of what is. So your mind is going to wander during a meditation practice. That is your mind's job, right? Our mind is filled with thoughts throughout the day, and that's normal. So when we sit and meditate, often clients are like, I'm doing it wrong. I can't stop the chatter. Well, yes, that's exactly the point, is it's very hard to stop the monkey mind, the chattering mind. But what we want to do, really where the practice comes in, is that we watch it, we observe it, we witness the monkey mind that's like going off into all these different directions, and we do it from a place of non-judgment. So like, can you just be a witness to your own thoughts without judging them? And what I find is that the more that I do that during like my meditation, the more when I'm off the meditation cushion or off the yoga mat, the easier it becomes for me to be non-judgmental of myself, right? So if I can be non-judgmental of the thoughts that come up during a meditation, then I'm much more likely to be accepting of the thoughts that may come up when I'm going about my day. And when we learn to watch the thoughts, we separate ourselves from them. We realize that who we are is not our thoughts, right? Who we are is not our emotions, even though that often guides like much of our daily experience. So I think that what we want to do instead is we want to bring our awareness to like a point of focus, a one-pointed focus. And that can be a focus on our breathing, which next Friday I'm going to talk through just a series of different like breath techniques, pranayama, which is really a Sanskrit word for like breath control. So I'll give you a couple different breathing options, ways that you can practice bringing awareness to the breath. You can also, bring that one-pointed focus to a mantra or a saying or a quote or something that just resonates. That's where I really love my affirmation cards, because for me, sometimes I'll pull an affirmation card and the one that resonates, I'll use that as a mantra to just sort of sit with and repeat and feel it and just kind of be in that, right? You can also bring your awareness to just a part of the body. So like a meditation I do often is bringing awareness to the point between the eyebrows, which is what yogis call the third eye center, or our wisdom seat. And the wisdom seat is really the part of us, yogis say that when the outer eyes are closed, right, these eyes, the inner eye, the third eye, can see. Because when our eyes are closed, our gaze moves inward, right? And we can actually be with ourself. And I can't tell you how many people, like how many of my clients I talk to who struggle to be with themselves. They struggle to just sit in their own being. And so instead they distract themselves with all kinds of things, right? And they know they need to have that solo time. They know they need to go inward and be with themselves, but they don't know how to. And I think meditation can be a really safe way and a safe practice to start being with yourself. Some people also like to focus their awareness on certain sensations, right? So like right now it's pouring rain outside. So earlier my meditation was bringing my awareness to the sound of the rain, right? So just bringing awareness to certain sounds and moving your awareness from sound to sound to sound without judgment, right? Or maybe it's a sensation. When I was outside meditating, bringing my awareness to like the feeling of the heat of the sun, right? Or whatever the sensation is. It could just be the sensation of, your hips or your thighs pressing onto the floor. Whatever that is. I think some people, I was going to share also, will use what's called a mala beads, right? So these mala beads are really wonderful. There's 108 of them. And that's a way to basically like hold on to each mala bead as you move through your practice, and maybe even sort of inhale and exhale as you move from one bead to the next, right? So whatever that one-pointed awareness is for you, and try different ones. Like every meditation I do is different. I try not to like decide what kind of meditation I'm going to have. Instead, for me, now that I'm no longer necessarily just relying on like someone's guided voice, a person to guide me through the meditation, I just go inward and I listen to my own guidance on what feels right. And that's really what I use. So you do you. Like you decide what feels right for you. And honestly, for me, I started with guided meditations because that was easier. And eventually I was able to build up from 5 minutes to 10 minutes to 20 minutes to 40 minutes, right? And sometimes our legs, we get tingles, and that's fine. Move the legs, right? Move the body if you need to during the meditation. That's totally okay. I think, again, the goal is non-judgment. Can you be with yourself in a meditation without judging it, without judging yourself or criticizing yourself? That alone is a practice, right? So I'm going to actually have us do a 10-minute meditation practice, a gratitude practice. I think what I'm going to do in a minute is I'm going to probably end this video and start a new video with just the meditation practice for anyone who just wants the meditation. Before I go, though, what I wanted to just share before the meditation, and I haven't even announced this yet in the group, but I am going to be leading a free workshop So I decided, I had you guys vote actually, and most of you said that you would be available on Friday, January 7th at 2 p.m. And I am going to be hosting a virtual recalibration retreat. And this really, for me, so the idea is that this is going to be a 2-hour, 1.5 to 2 hour virtual retreat where we're going to be learning how to reset your nervous system and how to rewire your brain, really, for a healthier you in the new year. And so I invite you guys. It's a totally free workshop. I will drop the link at the end of this in the live, and so you can register. So I actually have it. It's on my website now, www.aboundingcircles.com, and it is under the, I think it's under the circles section, the circles page, and then you click on the events, upcoming events, and I'll drop the link so you can go directly there and just enter your information. And it's going to be over Zoom, so it can be interactive, which I'm really excited about. And I'm going to be sharing, I'll be going way more in depth with a lot of this stuff. We'll be actually doing a restorative practice. We'll be meditating. I'm going to be incorporating some pranayama, some breath work, intention setting, sankalpa, right, which is really like the practice of creating an intention for yourself. And I'll be teaching some grounding techniques to sort of align body, mind, and spirit. And the goal of this recalibration retreat is that I really just want to create and hold a safe space for you all to be able to share what's called satsang, to be able to share and gather in sharing in truth, which is exactly what I'm doing right now, right? I'm sharing my own experience from a place of truth. And I will be teaching some sort of neuro strategies, really, brain-based strategies for stress management, radical self-love, and to help you overcome barriers to wellness, your barriers to wellness. So I really, really hope that you can join us and encourage you to check that out and sign up. And again, that'll be on Friday, January 7th. It'll be 2 p.m. Hawaii time, which I think is 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this particular video, and then I'm going to restart a new video for just the meditation. Okay, so I'll be back, and thank you guys. Tune in, stay here if you want to check out the next video, which will be our 10-minute gratitude meditation. Okay.